so we don't have to go over in great detail, but I will advise once again all of our witnesses, including the ministers, when you are making your statements, I would ask that if you begin your statement or question in one official languages, please keep speaking in that official language and do not alternate between English and French. This would be of great assistance to our interpreters. Secondly, for those of you who may be asked by the minister to answer a specific question, if you have the earbud type of microphone, please make sure you keep those microphones within 1 or 2 inches of your mouth so our interpreters can hear your audio levels as best as possible. And finally, colleagues, since this is the third time that the minister, at least Minister Nod, has appeared before this committee in the last 2 or 3 months, I would like to go as quickly to questions as possible. And I would ask for consent, therefore, for the following motion, that the speaking notes presented by the Minister of Public Services and Procurement Canada be taken as read and appended to the evidence of today's meeting. That would allow us to go directly into questions. Do I have consent from colleagues to accept that motion? Seeing no dissent, then we will go directly into questions. We will start with a 6-minute round of interventions, beginning with Mr. McCauley for 6 minutes.
Great. Ministers and Deputy Ministers, et cetera, welcome back. Minister, I'd like to start with you, please. Your opening statement that you submitted to OGGO, you state your PSPC is buying aggressively and ramping up domestic production. So when will Medicom start producing the N95 to have it available?
Minister, you may need to unmute your microphone.
Yeah, I have. Thank you so much for inviting me here today, and thank you for the question. The contract with Medicom for surgical masks and N95
but when will the N95 start being produced, please?
Thank you again for the question. The surgical masks will be produced towards the end of July, and the N95s will begin production at the end of August.
Okay, end of August. We heard from industry just last week it would not be to the end of the year. Which is correct, end of August or what industry says?
Again, I wanted to mention that
Minister, please just answer the questions. I'm not interested in any monologuing. We have a short amount of time. Please just get to the answers, please.
I am proceeding in a way that is professional, and if you could allow me to finish the answer that I start, I would very much appreciate it. Thank you. The contract is, in our knowledge, going to begin production the end of July for surgical masks and the end of August for N95 masks.
Okay. How many masks will be imported into Canada by the end of July, please?
Well, Mr. McCauley, the contracts for N95 are multiple, and we are expecting millions of masks, N95s.
Okay, but how many though, please, by the end of July?
The importation of the masks are going to be continuing to ramp up. A precise number would be one that I will check with my Deputy Minister, Bill Matthews, to clarify.
Thank you, Minister. Just to maybe add some context to that, the vast majority of N95 masks that we're receiving between now and the end of July are imported from overseas, with the exception of 3M, which comes from the US. 3M is roughly 500,000 a month, but in terms of masks delivered to date, as of last week, our N95, we were showing at about 12
by
million.
the end of July, how many N95 masks will we have imported?
I'm getting there, Mr. Chair. I'm just doing some math in my head. So end of last week, we had 12 million N95s imported and accepted. And then we're roughly for June and July, you're looking at our target of about additional 20 million per month. So that should give you some rough numbers.
Okay.
40 plus the 12 already received.
On your website, April 23rd, you said the orders for N95s were 155 million. May 26th, it was updated to show the orders dropped to 107 million. And then June 2nd, it was 121 million. So what happened to the 33.6 million masks between April 23rd and June 2nd?
We are operating in an incredibly intense global environment where demand for N95s is at an extreme peak. Our fluctuations in our numbers reflect that global demand, and there are times when we do have to revisit contracts. And as a result, our numbers on our webpage, in which we are being fully transparent with our orders and our deliveries, do fluctuate.
So those are just canceled orders? No, that's fine. Those are just canceled orders, I assume then. Let me
Well,
ask
it's
you, of the
not,
masks that we
excuse
have
me.
brought, now let me please continue. I'm going to take back my time. Thank you. Of the masks that have been imported into Canada so far, we know there was a large amount that were contaminated or a subpar. What percentage of the masks have been brought in to date are have not been acceptable to Canadian standards, please?
If I could just clarify, the masks that have been brought in to date, it's not that they don't meet Canadian standards, it's that the Public Health Agency of Canada deemed them not to meet standards for delivery to frontline healthcare workers. And healthcare workers are our utmost priority in terms of procuring PPE.
Of the masks, of the N95 masks that have been imported, what percentage have been deemed then by PHAC as not being acceptable for our nurses and our doctors?
That is about, of the masks that have come into Canada, about 2 million.
Okay, and what percentage have not? We heard that it was 8 million of a delivery. Now you're saying it's 2 million.
Sorry, the 2 million were the masks that did not meet the Public Health Agency of Canada's specifications and were delivered out to other government departments.
What percentage of the N95 masks that have come into Canada were deemed not acceptable for the purpose of what they were ordered, please?
I'm going to ask my Deputy Minister to respond to the question relating to percentage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the member has referred to the website. So of the N95 on the website, the 12.2 million, those are all in and accepted and tested and good to go. The quality issues the member referred to related to the ones that have not passed testing, there are 10 million in Canada of those. They're not included in that number. And the minister already referred to the number of those that have gone outside to been distributed.
Have we prepaid for any masks that have, for an order that we have not received, or perhaps the order has been canceled, as in we've prepaid for masks and we've lost the money?
We have a number of contracts in place for N95 masks. The terms of those contracts, we are not paying for masks.
Minister, I'm going to have to. I'm sorry.
Use.
Thank you, Minister. My apologies for interrupting, but if you could, if there's an additional answer for Mr. McCauley, if I could ask you to put that in writing and deliver it as soon as possible through our clerk. And finally,
my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, also, if you could move your microphone just maybe an inch or two further away from your mouth. We're getting a bit of a feedback from our interpreters, not much. Thank you very much. We'll see how that works. We'll now go to Mr. McKinnon for 6 minutes, please.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I thank you for pointing out and through you to the minister, your third time at this committee, and I want to salute the transparency that I know you take very seriously and bring to this committee every time you're here. Now, can you tell us how quickly, from your vantage point, domestic capacity with respect to PPE is ramping up?
So, thank you so much for the question. Domestic capacity has been a priority for our government in order that we have multiple supply chains operating coterminously in order that we can have short and long-term capacity for PPE domestically available. And we are partnering with Canadian industry to rapidly scale up and retool production capacity. Our goal is to be over-prepared. We're building capacity in anticipation of future needs right across the country. While we continue to receive shipments internationally, we are working to source as much supply as possible from domestic manufacturers. And as we move into the next phase of this crisis, we will ensure that we've got domestic capacity producing the range of items that we list on our webpage: face masks, gloves, face shields, N95, surgical masks, and the like. Last week, we also launched a request for proposal for the purchase of 50 million disposable non-medical face masks. And for this RFP, there's a dedicated stream for Indigenous businesses. So you can see how we are moving to an additional means of procurement and additional phases of procurement as we progress through these months to ensure we've got domestic capacity, but we also are able to diversify within that stream.
Thank you very much, and I think that's an important clarification for all of us. Your statement contained an update on the Phoenix pay system, and I know because of COVID and other things that we haven't probably spent enough time discussing that. I see Mr. Linklater is accompanying you today. Just perhaps could you update this committee on the progress during the COVID pandemic that has been made on the Phoenix pay system and on that backlog?
Well, thanks for that important question, because the Phoenix pay system remains top of mind for our government, even during this crisis, because federal employees deserve to be paid accurately and on time. I'm going to hand the floor over to Les Linklater in a moment, but I just want to mention that since January 2018, the backlog of financial transactions has decreased by 64%. That is 247,000 transactions, down from 384,000 to 137,000 pending transactions, which is remarkable. And I want to thank the hard work of our Pay Center employees for their work in allowing us to see a steady decline in the queue during the past couple of months. Les Linklater, do you have anything further to add?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Since COVID hit, we have not had to invoke our business continuity plan. Staff have been teleworking very effectively, and with the results of the most recent public dashboard on Phoenix posted today, over the course of both April and May, the queue has been reduced by about 27,000 transactions. So as the minister says, 137,000 financial impact transactions beyond our normal workload currently at the Pay Center, and we are continuing to see a downward trend despite the issues of remote work and telework.
Merci beaucoup pour ça. Je sais que je vois M. Drouin.
Thank you very much for that. I see Mr. Drouin, who's there as well, and we know you represent a lot of, actually between the two of us, we represent many public servants in our riding, so we really appreciate all the efforts you've been making. Last question, because I feel like I don't have much time left. It's a tax season, June 1st. It was pushed back this year. Mr. Linklater, could you compare this tax season with Phoenix and the T4 errors that were made in the past through Phoenix? Could you compare this year to previous years?
Thank you so much. I'll let Les Linklater take this question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This year we have issued over 500,000 T4s and releveants to public servants across the country. As the member is no doubt aware, the amendment of T4s is a regular course of business when we're dealing with changes to pay and looking at a number of factors that feed into that. For comparative purposes, for tax year 2019, we issued about 50,000 revised T4s, which compares to over 200,000 for tax year 2017. So we have seen improvements and in the stability of the system, and a significant decrease in the number of revisions to T4s. We'll see as we move into tax filing deadlines for this year. We believe that that number will continue to be much lower than it has been in the past.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to Madame Vignola. 6 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
6 minutes, please. Thank you very much. Ms. Anand, employees have had problems with Phoenix, we all know that, and they were transferred. It was transferred by into a department that weren't served through Phoenix. They are not receiving any answers regarding the changes in their salary levels. There are 26 departments that have not transferred their data to PSPC as of April 29th. This is my question. How can the PSPC ensure that it has a complete picture of what is happening?
Merci beaucoup pour la.
Thank you very much for this question. Our priority is to ensure that public servants receive their pay, the amount they are due, in the appropriate amount of time. Our pay and pension services are essential, and we have the resources required to provide these services. But regarding your question, I will ask my colleague, Mr. Linklater, if he has an answer, and if not, we will have to answer in writing. Do you have anything to add?
Votre micro est.
Your microphone is muted, I believe, Mr. Linklater. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Thank you, Minister, and thank you for this question. Of course, there are still issues, pay issues, throughout the government, but there are fewer of them every day. We have implemented a structure to ensure that information is shared, and in terms of work, we have close relations with departments that are not served through the pay system to ensure that information is shared about the cases and the files of people moving to different departments throughout government. For specific problems where individual people are seeing problems, we can make sure that there's an expedited processing of their file. And on a day-to-day basis, we are building a pilot project to determine how we can better address this issue of transfers, employee transfers. That wasn't my question. My question, I'll repeat it, was as of April 29th, only 27 of the 53 departments had transferred their data. That is, the departments that don't go through the pay center had transferred their information on pay movements. How can you have an overall picture if nearly half of the departments have not transferred the information? Well, with the tools we are developing and that we have developed and that we are refining, if I've understood your question correctly, we have a way of working with the departments that is bilateral. That way we can ensure that they have the information they need on their own cases within their own department so that they can address the problems, the pay problems for their employees through the PSPC. Okay, so of the 26 departments that have not transferred information regarding pay movements, well, they are not included in the overall picture you're giving. That's right. There are some small departments that have their own issues, and it's possible that we don't have all of the data for those smaller departments. That's right. Now, in the complaints, the problems I'm hearing about regarding Phoenix or pay stubs, what I'm hearing often is, I don't understand. There are changes in the amounts I obtain. I owe money, I am owed money, but I don't know why. Do government employees have a guide of the codes used on their own pay stubs so that they can understand it? Does that exist? Yes, we have a number of tools. We have just developed and implemented a tool called MyGCPay, MaPay. OGGO in French, which gives employees throughout the government departments, whether it's departments that go through the pay center or not, an overview of their pay stubs, their level of pay, their anniversary dates, money that gets taken off for union purposes, and so on. And it's a tool that also provides an overview of what employees should see on their pay stubs, as well as all of the transactions through the pay center, all the transactions that have not been processed yet.
We're completely out of time. We'll now go to Ms. Ashton. Ms. Ashton, welcome to our committee. You have 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Madam Minister, on May 3rd, Matthias Colomb Cree Nation found out through the media that they would receive medical tents they never asked for, despite having asked to retrofit their youth center for use during the pandemic. Chief Biggity called this action paternalistic. In a letter to federal officials, the director of their health program, Barbara Dumas-Hart, wrote that the approach by the government, quote, has impacted our community with negative ramifications resulting in disharmony and dysfunction, unquote. At a time when MCCN and all First Nations in our region have been doing what they can to save lives, your government used MCCN and made things worse. Since then, we've seen the government attempt to use national security to shield everyone from the truth. Then we saw finger pointing between Indigenous services and public service and procurement. Will your office take responsibility for this appalling treatment of Matthias Colomb Cree Nation? And what steps has your department taken since this fiasco to ensure that First Nations are listened to and not used?
Minister? Minister
Well,
Seal.
Yep, I'm here. Thank you for the question. The national security exception was used as a result of a decision that we made in order to ensure that suppliers have the ability to provide the type of product. And I want to say that Indigenous businesses have the full support of the federal government, and we will work with them to increase access to future opportunities. In terms of the issue that you identified, we are working very hard to assess what exactly happened in this particular case. We are working with Indigenous services to identify, as well as Minister Miller, to identify exactly what occurred in terms of the decision to send that supply up there. But I will say that we will continue to ensure that we are respecting the concerns that you are raising and take them very seriously.
Thank you for that, but our concerns are quite extensive. When my office looked into the contract for medical tents to Pucketawagan, we noticed that they went to a company whose board chair also sat on the COVID-19 Supply Council, a former Liberal cabinet minister, Cathy Bennett. When a journalist asked for comment on this, they were quickly told that Ms. Bennett resigned from her role on the Supply Council. Your office later informed us that she had also resigned from her role as board chair of Dynamic Air Shelters, quote, out of an abundance of caution, unquote. Did you or anyone in your office ask former Liberal cabinet minister Cathy Bennett to resign, yes or no?
I want to start by saying that the Supply Council has no role in procurement at all.
My question, Madam Minister, with all due respect, is about Ms. Bennett's resignation. It's not about the broader Supply Council at this time.
Well, the Supply Council member that you mentioned offered her resignation.
Okay, so you or your office were not involved in asking her to do so. Yes or no?
I was actually very surprised as I was completely unaware of the conflict. We asked members to disclose any conflicts that they may have, and this was a complete shock to me when I heard about it.
So in both interviews in the media and in a letter to my office, you described the COVID-19 Supply Council as having no role in procurement. On your department's website, it says that one of the topics raised was procurement of PPEs. This doublespeak is misleading to Canadians. Procurement, we know, means acquisition, not supply. But now we have an example of a supplier who benefited from a contract that was never asked for by a First Nation. Is the COVID-19 Supply Council, whose role it is to advise the government on procurement, involved with procurement? Yes or no?
The answer is a straight up no. The Supply Council has met twice. I've had advice from the Supply Council on things like our supply hub, which we just launched today, which brings together buyers and sellers in terms of resources that they're able to utilize. So the absolute answer is the Supply Council has no role in procurement whatsoever, and we've been completely transparent about that role from the very beginning. We also put up minutes of our meetings on our website, and you will see a readout from our last two meetings.
We have, and they're quite sparse. But with respect to Ms. Bennett, my question is also, I mean, she's had 12 government contracts since 2015. How is it that your office was not aware of how inappropriate it would be for her to be on the Supply Council?
The disclosure that we asked members to make were to disclose any potential and existing conflicts. And we put together a diverse range of members from across this country so that they can allow
Thank
us.
you, Minister. Thank you, Minister. Ms. Ashton, as well, if you have a further question later in the round, I would just ask for our interpreters, if you could just slow down your cadence of your speech slightly so our interpreters have enough time to catch up to what you're saying and interpret the words correctly. We'll now go to our 5-minute round, starting with Ms. Block.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I do want to thank the Minister for being here and as well as her departmental officials. I believe, Mr. Chair, that we are going to be judged by how transparent and accountable we have been willing to be in managing this pandemic. And so I'm grateful for the fact that we have the blues and the Hansard and the evidence from all of these meetings so that Canadians can see how forthright or not forthright our ministers are willing to be when questions are put to them. With that, I'll ask a question of Minister Anand. During this committee's meeting last Friday, we passed a unanimous motion calling on your department to provide Canadians transparency by supplying this committee with documents related to the sole source contracts for PPE. Will you commit today to making the deadlines set out in that motion, to meeting the deadlines set out in that motion?
Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words at your opening, and I'm very pleased to be here also. I will commit as much as I am able to meet those deadlines.
Thank you very much for that, Minister. I'm going to go back to the millions of substandard KN95 masks sold to your department by one supplier. I asked a question during last Thursday's COVID meeting, and you responded that you were negotiating a range of exits from this contract with the supplier, end quote. Is one of the elements being negotiated the reimbursement of funds already prepaid to the company for these substandard masks?
Thank you for the question. I do remember the interchange last week. We are working very hard to ensure that we put Canada in the best position possible in terms of this contract. We've suspended further shipments of KN95 masks from the supplier. We're not paying for masks that we can't use.
Okay, so then is one of the elements being negotiated for the reimbursement of funds already prepaid for masks that will never be delivered? Is that an element that you're negotiating right now? Being reimbursed for masks that we will never receive?
As I mentioned, we want to make sure that Canada is in the best position possible. That is one of the options that we are discussing. But I want to be very clear that I'm very hesitant to provide the precise negotiation information because this contract is sensitive, and I want to make sure that we maintain Canada's position in the negotiation.
Sure, you want to ensure that we have a strong position in order to extricate ourselves out of a contract that we are in. I understand that. So recently your department unveiled that it is spending $105 million of taxpayer money on 2 new Challenger jets for the Government of Canada. Does this price tag include the life cycle costs of the 2 jets?
Thank you for the question. The costing of these jets that are required to ensure that the men and women in uniform have the equipment that they need is an all-in costing. It is the cost of each aircraft is $29.2 million US dollars, and included is in that amount is going to be an all-in type amount. We have the ability to hand this over to Bill Matthews,
Minister,
who has the precise items and can break it down if you want.
I want to clarify that I'm asking a question about the 2 new Challenger jets for the Government of Canada.
That's right. And I'm answering with regards to the Challenger costing. The total contract value is $75 million US dollars, and the total costing includes an all-in relating to parts and maintenance.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll now go to Mr. Kuzmierczuk for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much, Minister, for making this is your 3rd appearance in front of this committee, always making yourself available and answering our questions in a forthright manner. Really just appreciate you doing that for us. I wanted to turn the attention back to the COVID crisis here and the situation that we're dealing with. And I just wanted to ask you, in terms of the procurement of PPEs, how has the procurement of PPE and medical supplies changed over the span of the pandemic? How has our sort of strategy changed in terms of procurement? Oh, Minister, I think you're still on mute, Minister.
I appreciate the question, especially because I did not get to deliver my opening remarks. We actually have evolved in our procurement during the pandemic and have reached a consistent pace of deliveries. There continue to be challenges, as I have mentioned, that the demand for PPE is extremely high globally and domestically, and so we are constantly evolving and adapting our approach. We have an A to Z procurement process established. We have 1 flight a day arriving in Canada approximately, and we're delivering supplies in the short and the long term. We've also offered assistance to individual healthcare centers and provinces and territories that need them. So there's a very collaborative approach that is occurring in procurement. We've succeeded in securing contracts with a wide range of suppliers. We're receiving deliveries almost on a daily basis now. And as we move to the next phase of the response, we are launching RFPs to solicit the goods we need over the required timelines. We're continuing to source through our buy and sell, call out to suppliers based on the needs as they continue to evolve. So for procurement, the purchasing of PPE continues and is very, very important to frontline healthcare workers, obviously, but we are reaching a more stable, consistent pace of deliveries.
Thank you, Minister. Before we go on, Minister, notice your microphone has slipped somewhat. Could you just put it up about an inch or two above Not quite that much, a little lower, but just above that. Great. Otherwise, we're getting some feedback from our interpreters. Thank you very much. Mr. Kuzmirchuk, please continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for that response, Minister. You mentioned RFPs. What are some other ways that we're using to let companies know what supplies are still needed and where the emphasis on right now?
The impetus that we have made for getting in touch with suppliers has been manifold. So one of the most important things that we just launched today was our supply hub. And on that supply hub, which is a web page on the Government of Canada's website, we are able to provide information to buyers and sellers of PPE to provide them with information. So if you're a buyer of PPE, you will see there links to other platforms, provincially and privately run platforms, that gives you information about PPE that you can procure, and also provides purchasers with a list of questions that they can ask so that they're more informed in their purchasing decision. That's probably the most important, or at least the most recent innovation that we are using to reach out to those looking to procure and to supply PPE. But there are others. Again, the transparency that we are utilizing on our webpage, indicating our procurement orders as well as our deliveries, and some high-level contracts domestically are all listed on our webpage and are updated every single week. Again, we are focused on transparency while keeping in mind the need to keep our supply chains safe and secure so that we can get materials and supplies to frontline healthcare workers as soon as possible to keep themselves and keep Canadians safe. That's our priority. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Minister, for that response. And safe and secure supply chains obviously are definitely a priority of this government. I just wanted to ask, knowing that a large or a significant portion of the PPEs are still coming from abroad, from countries like China, for example, what are we doing to bring products up to the standards of Canadian standards, I guess, before they enter or when they enter our country?
And Minister, unfortunately, since we're out of time, I would ask you to provide that answer to Mr. Kuzmirchuk in writing as quickly as possible through our clerk. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Mr. Abute, if you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Minister. How many N95 masks have we ordered originally, and how many we have received?
Thank you so much for the question. This information, of course, is updated regularly on our website. But as the website indicates, we have about 121 million N95s ordered, and we have approximately 12 million N95s delivered. And of course, I would like to ask my Deputy Minister if he could jump in here, as I believe he has a clarification.
I've got the information.
Mr. Chair, though, if I could clarify, because I did misspeak earlier when I said the 12 million masks did not include the ones that were rejected. They do include the ones that were rejected.
They do include. That's why
I just wanted to clarify that. I apologize for misspeaking.
So 121,861,800 masks ordered. 12,221,990 were received. Out of that, 9.8 million KN95 they were defected. So out of that 10% of original that we have only received less than 2% of the total ordered. So now what's the cost of each mask?
Thanks for the question. The cost, as you know, is variable for N95 masks. As I mentioned, we are operating in an incredibly high period of demand, and it has caused the price of masks to fluctuate significantly.
What's the average, Minister? Can you give me an average?
I'm going to get the average for you momentarily. I would have to work that out, but we are.
There's information telling me that it was $4 US, 535 Canadian FOBs. That's not including logistics and moves.
Can I?
Is that number reasonable?
Can I just mention that the price has fluctuated over the course of the last 3 months, and in fact has come down somewhat, and each contract has a differing price for N95 masks. It would be inaccurate for me to indicate a precise price.
I appreciate that, of course, but the information that we've been asking for, Minister, and we haven't been receiving from your department, it's already on the internet there. There's an order of 17 million masks, and there was a deposit of $100 million that was paid. And I believe Mr. Matthews somehow said that there is some deposits being paid, but he did not clarify the number. So now I do have numbers here: $100 million, 17 million masks at $4 each before delivery that were ordered. And we haven't received any of that. How come?
I am not aware of the contract of which you are speaking. I'm going to ask my Deputy Minister, Bill Matthews, to jump in here.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll be very quick on this one. On the N95 contracts, it is normal to make advance payments partial or sometimes in full, but more partial now. But we have made no payments of $100 million for any advance payments of N95. So I'm not sure which contract.
You indicate, Mr. Matthews, that you've been paying deposits or you've been prepaying for some of those contracts, but you did not say what was the amount. Will you be able to tell us what the maximum amount that you paid for deposit or prepaid for to supply these masks? And given the fact that we have received only 2% of what we have ordered in the last 3 months, how come?
So two things there, Mr. Chair. Roughly speaking, about 40% of our contracts have an advance payment component on PPE. So I'll start there.
Okay.
Not the dollar amount, but 40% of contracts. In terms of the orders and how they match up against deliveries, don't picture a giant order showing up one time only. These contracts are mostly structured so it's a flow of goods over a number of months. And you will likely see about 30 million N95 NEOSH masks arriving from international destinations over the next 4 months. So this is a staggered delivery scheme, and obviously there's been some slippage. But
Mr. Matthews, 121 million masks at $4 US, that's $500,000 US. And the 40% deposit of that's 200 million US dollars that you paid already. So my $100 million is not out to lunch, is it?
No, that's not correct, Mr. Chair. What I said was roughly 40% of our contracts have an advance payment component, not 40% of the advance payments.
You're showing 121 million.
Mr. Abote, unfortunately, we're out of time on that, but if you care to have a second round, I'm sure you can pose a question directly to Mr. Matthews at a later time. We'll now go to Mr. Weiler for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again to the Minister for coming to join our committee for the third time here in a couple months. Minister, through the chair, my province of beautiful British Columbia is now in phase 2 of our restart plan, where many businesses have been opened up. Have already opened for several weeks, and we're hopefully going to be moving into phase 3, where a large number of other businesses are going to be opening up. So right now there is a significant need for PPE to support those businesses to safely reopen, and there's going to continue to be that going forward. You mentioned earlier there's an announcement today made about the establishment of the supply hub. How can interested small businesses use this tool to get access to critical PPE?
Thank you so much, Mr. Wheeler, for that question. And I just wanted to indicate in response to the last question that the vast majority of the supplies that we are ordering are coming in: gowns, surgical masks, face shields. And it's important to keep it in context because the Government of Canada's procurement effort is largely being very successful, and deliveries are going out to the provinces and territories every day, including 2.7 N95 masks, which have been delivered to the provinces and territories. Now to your question about the supply hub, I will say that we have a range of resources on our webpage for purchasers of PPE. Suppliers are able to place information through us as well on that website. We've introduced, for example, links to the rapid response platform and the government of Manitoba and Ontario's platforms, which have information about individual items of PPE that businesses might need. We are continuing to update that website, but I encourage you to take a look at it because it is an innovation and it connects businesses across the country with a one-stop shop of resources for the acquisition of PPE.
Thank you for that. Judging from some of the questions earlier, there's a huge degree of interest in the Supply Council. And just to clarify for the committee, what is the role of the Supply Council in relation to procurement?
Well, thank you for the question. I didn't have a chance to provide detail on the role of the Supply Council earlier. From the beginning, we've been working with partners at all levels of government and with industry to secure life-saving medical equipment so that we can keep frontline healthcare workers safe. We can do our part as the federal government in the procurement effort. And as part of that process, we put in place the Supply Council. It brings together a diverse range of leaders to provide advice on establishing further diversified supply chains for key items so that we are prepared for any eventuality. This council builds on our collaborative approach to help us address current and future supply challenges, and also to ensure that Canadians are able to access PPE. The Supply Hub that I just mentioned is one innovation that the Supply Council was able to provide advice on in terms of ensuring we have enough resources for diverse communities across this country. The council is in place to provide advice on our work, but it has no role in procurement whatsoever.
Minister, once again, if I could get you just to move your microphone up a little bit, it keeps slipping down. No, not quite that much, just a little bit lower. There we go, perfect. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Weiler, please go ahead.
Thank you, and I'll switch gears quickly here. Construction on Parliament Hill has been able to continue throughout the period of social isolation. Can you tell us how you worked with the construction industry to ensure the extra health and safety measures were put in place for government projects and how that has translated into private projects?
If you can respond in about 30 seconds, Minister, I would appreciate it greatly.
PSBC temporarily demobilized 85 projects in the precinct. This included projects taking place in occupied space, including fit up and building improvement. But construction activities continued on the center block and the east block, though limited to activities undertaken in unoccupied spaces to mitigate the transfer of COVID-19. Both projects are able to facilitate social distancing and compartmentalization.
Thank you very much. Now we'll go to our final 2.5-minute round intervention, starting with Monsieur Bassou-Duval.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In a previous meeting, or I believe it was you or perhaps one of your officials mentioned that you had an exclusive transport agreement with Air Canada and Cargojet, I believe, to bring in cargo from elsewhere. I'd like to know what the total value of the contracts between Air Canada and your department is, and that since last March.
Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup pour la question.
Thank you very much for this question. If I may, I'd like to respond in writing later with the details because it's important to really have the details on, and I don't have them on hand at this time. So I do want to say that these flights are very important. There have been over 50 of them. Thank you very much. I'd be very glad if you could send me the total amount. I'm also very sure that these flights are very important. I wanted to know, before you provided public contracts with them, whether Air Canada would respect the laws and their customers and reimburse flights that have been canceled and so on.
Merci beaucoup pour.
Thank you for this question once again. It's very important. And I want to say that this would be a question for the transport minister, but I want to, okay, but it's your department that awards the contract. That's true. But in terms of respecting the rights and the laws of the country, that's a question for the minister and the Department of Transport. Thank you. But awarding businesses that don't respect the laws, that's a problem, isn't it?
Thank you very much. I'm unfortunate we're out of time, Mr. Busser. Our final intervention will be Mr. Green for 2.5 minutes, please.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I'll be taking this one as well with Mr.
Nikki,
Green's approval.
Please go ahead.
Minister Anand, earlier I pointed to the conflict of interest involving former Liberal Cabinet Minister Cathy Bennett. My question to you is, are there other members of the COVID-19 Supply Council who have similar conflicts of interest and would be forced to resign out of an abundance of caution, as was said about Ms. Bennett?
As I mentioned, I was very surprised to learn of the issue relating to that member of the Supply Council, and I accepted her resignation as soon as possible. I also instructed my team, as soon as that occurred, to go back and to check to see if there were any similar issues that would have arisen. And we have not uncovered them. But as I said, the obligation was placed on the individual to make sure that they did not have a conflict. And we asked for that disclosure at the very beginning.
Well, I appreciate that you looked into some of the other folks on the Supply Council, and I just want to go through some of those who are. David McHattie, the second Vice Chair for Petroleum Services Association of Canada and Institutional Relations for Tenaris. We know that the Petroleum Service Association of Canada met with the government over 40 times since April. Tenaris, a pipeline company, has met with the government on 31 separate occasions since 2017 on issues including development of oil and gas. Jody Hall is with the Canadian Association for Long-Term Care, including for-profit private long-term care homes. Perrin Beatty with the Chamber of Commerce, and I would say all potential conflicts of interest similar to Ms. Bennett's. All are still on the Supply Council. So is your government comfortable with the presence of lobbyists promoting oil and gas as well as private long-term care homes being this close to advising your department on procurement contracts during a crisis?
About a 30-second answer, if possible, Minister.
Ms. Ashton, that's simply untrue. Council members were selected based on their expertise and their leadership in their respective fields to represent a range of sectors, backgrounds, and regions across the country. Given that members of the Supply Council are leaders in the private and nonprofit sectors, there's a chance that they may represent or have prior relationships in the government, but they have no role in contracting whatsoever, as I have previously clarified for this committee, and I will repeatedly say it.
Thank you very much. That ends our first hour with Minister Anand, and I will suspend in just a few moments, but I do want to thank Minister, you and your officials for being here again. As I noted in my opening remarks, this was the third time you've appeared before this committee in the last 3 months, so I do appreciate you taking the time, and I hope you take my statement of no more than 5 minutes. And
Yes.
Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, committee members. The Government of Canada continues the implementation of extraordinary measures to protect the health of Canadians and shelter them from financial hardships during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm proud to present the Government of Canada's COVID-19 related measures and my portfolio as Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, and as the Minister responsible for the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. So, let me take you back to March 2020. With the pandemic just starting in Canada, it became clear that our normal social safety net would not be able to handle the volume of people that were losing their jobs as part of the quarantine. Our government acted fast and introduced the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. Through this benefit, we are providing a taxable benefit of $500 per week for up to 16 weeks to eligible workers who have stopped working due to COVID-19 pandemic. As part of our plan, we've also given 3.7 million families currently receiving the Canada Child Benefit a one-time $300 boost per child with their regular May 2020 payment. Starting next month, on July 20th, the Canada Child Benefit will again be increased to keep up with the cost of living. This additional tax-free support will help Canadian families pay for things such as healthy food, clothing, activities that they can do together at home. Additionally, we've also taken action to ensure that all Canadians have a safe and affordable place to call home during COVID-19 pandemic. For example, if a homeowner's mortgage is insured through the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, Genworth Canada or Canada Guarantee, we took action to ensure that homeowners in financial need can access a temporary deferral of mortgage payments for up to 6 months. Sadly, people experiencing homelessness are at heightened risk of contracting COVID-19 and suffering severe health consequences as a result of that. This is why the Government of Canada moved quickly and early to provide $157.5 million to communities combating homelessness and making sure that the organizations serving the homeless populations are prepared for and manage the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. We also moved quickly to support charities in the nonprofit sector to continue the important work that they're doing to support vulnerable populations by setting up the Emergency Community Support Fund in the amount of $350 million. Organizations that require that support can go through our three partners, United Way, Centraide Canada, the Community Foundations of Canada, and or the Canadian Red Cross. In closing, Mr. Chair and colleagues, by addressing the financial need of families, workers, renters, homeowners, and landlords, and the additional needs of the most vulnerable in our communities, the Government of Canada is doing its part to mitigate the spread of the COVID-19 virus and continue to protect Canadians' health and financial security through the pandemic. Thank you. I will now be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. And colleagues, I think we'll start with 5-minute rounds of questions. We'll go from 5 minutes to 4 minutes to 2 minutes. Mr. Boutev, you have 5 minutes, please.
Yes, welcome, Minister. I hope you're safe and the family as well. Welcome to committee today. You mentioned the CERB program, and there's the news says that the CERB fraudster could face 5 fines of jails and maybe new enforcement measures or mechanisms. Can you comment on that, please? And if you have any details to brief us on what kind of mechanism are in place to go after the people that they fraudulently or misleadingly, if you wish, claim a CERB finance assistance.
Thank you so much for that question. I want to assure you and all the members of the committee and Canadians that everyone who receives the Canada Emergency Benefit, the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, must first attest that they are indeed eligible for the benefit and that they meet the program requirements. So while our primary focus has always been about getting money out the door to eligible Canadians, we continue to regularly conduct file reviews. We continue to engage in investigations to identify and address cases of error, fraud, and abuse. We are using computer tracking, data analytics, and linked data systems to detect mispayments and any fraudulent activity.
So that's the mechanism, if we can say that is the mechanism that you're using. Is that correct?
Yes, we're using a number of methods and tools to detect fraud, to detect abuse,
Okay.
and of course that hasn't stopped. We're continuing to conduct investigations as well.
In order to assist Canadians or to save some of the mortgages that you bought, or the Bank of Canada bought some mortgages from the banks, can you advise us what the total amount of money or how many billions of dollars were spent in that regard?
We have ensured that we protect homeowners, that we keep them housed, that we continue to allow them to access their home and get through this COVID-19 pandemic. In terms of the specific numbers, I will defer to my officials to provide that further information to you.
Okay. We can take an answer on that later. I like to carry on my questions. That's okay. Now, the policies of CMHC regarding the people trying to sell their homes, there are some new conditions right now. The home values is going down. The prediction is that the house price is going to go down by maybe 10 to 18%, which is if someone have bought a house of $300,000, paid $15,000 deposit to buy the house. Now the house price gone down by $60,000, that they're acquiring $45,000 as losses before they even get to enjoy the house. So the question is, who is the beneficiary of the new policies that it doesn't seem to make sense in this time of pandemic?
So I will I'll answer the question and then also defer to the head of CMHC to provide further information. Our government is putting forward measures to help Canadians and businesses and nonprofit sector. But we know that this pandemic is also affecting Canada's housing market. We are committed to ensuring that we provide a safe and affordable home to each and every Canadian through different mechanisms. I will now pass the floor over to the head of CMHC to provide further input into your question.
Thank you, Minister. Through the chair, the answer to the prior question is we have bought $5.8 billion of mortgages thus far under the Insured Mortgage Purchase Program of a total availability of $150 billion. And we did tighten our underwriting policies, as many lenders have done, because of the potential for decreased house prices in the future and the fact that we don't want to put vulnerable Canadians into mortgages that they can't afford, sir.
So what's the risk there must be a risk to CMHC as well as to Bank of Canada and down the road to taxpayers. What is the risk of doing what you're doing?
Well, there's no risk to the Bank of Canada. The Bank of Canada only buys mortgages that have CMHC insurance on them or Government of Canada insurance, and so they don't have credit risk associated with that. And we, Chair, are actually reducing our risk as a result of these changes so that homeowners have more equity, stronger credit, or better ability to pay in the event that they buy houses over the next period of time.
So 1 in 5 mortgages in Canada. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Now we'll go to Mr. Johari for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to welcome the Minister and the department, and also start by acknowledging the great work that your department has been doing, especially the CRA, with the number of calls and the number of support that's come over the last few months. And must have been challenging, and we acknowledge the great work that they've done. Minister, as you know, the 12-week period for CERB is near completion. Can you give us a quick update of what are the plans as we are opening the economy, and what do you see what's going to happen to CERB? Is CERB going to come to a stop? Is CERB going to modify?
Yes, we introduced the Canada Emergency Response Benefit to make sure that every Canadian who had lost their job or whose job had simply disappeared would be protected. As provinces begin to lift restrictions to lift restrictions on businesses, ask Canadians to return to work, our government will continue to be there for them. We have structured the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, the employee top-up, and the Canada Emergency Business Account and other support measures to ensure that workers are supported and businesses are in the best possible position when coming out of this crisis. We're going to make sure our priority remains that Canadians have the support they need, and we'll continue to support businesses and workers during this.
So do you anticipate that the CERB would be coming to a termination in when the 12 weeks term is up, or do you feel that the government will continue supporting
we
Canadians?
will always support Canadian workers, either the ones who have lost their jobs or who've been recently laid off. For those whose jobs has simply disappeared, they've had access to the CERB. The Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy is having a great impact in keeping people employed, but also allowing businesses to re-employ recently laid off workers. And we're heartened by the fact that many folks have gone back to work. We'll continue to monitor the situation, but make no mistake, we will be there for Canadian workers as we continue to assess the situation.
Thank you, Minister. Allow me to switch to the what I call the rent subsidy, CECRA. Can you give us a comparison between the rate of adoption between CERB and that your department has seen between CERB and between the CECRA? Has there been the same pickup on the rent subsidy?
On the commercial rent, I would say that we know that small businesses across the country are important. They're the job creators. They create prosperity for not only the families but also the community. The program was launched on May 25th. It offers assistance for the months of April, May, and June of 2020 and can be applied retroactively. There are over 26,000 property owners who have registered in the Canada Emergency Commercial Rental Assistance portal. And as of June 2nd, applications approved or in progress represent approximately $73 million, supporting almost 20,000 small business tenants. So I'm proud of the fact of the work that we've done, but we have to continue to encourage more businesses to take advantage of this wonderful program.
Yeah, how do you think we can encourage them? Because in my writing, I have a lot of small business owners who are renting, and they're reaching to our office and they're saying that they're not getting the support that they needed from the landlords and from other levels. Have your department heard anything on that, and do you have any response to that?
We've been encouraging landlords to be there for their tenants. We have been trying very hard to publicize this program. I have been making outreach phone calls with members of the small business community in various parts of Canada, just highlighting the number of supports we're providing, including the Canada Emergency Commercial Rental Assistance Program.
How do you think we can encourage the landlords to participate in this? Because there are small business owners and they're landlords, and the landlords are not as enthusiastic to participate as we had hoped.
Yes, absolutely.
Minister, unfortunately, we're completely out of time. I would ask that if you want to give a complete answer to Mr. Jahari's question, you do so as quickly as possible in writing, and you submit that answer to our clerk. And now we will go to our our third intervener for 5 minutes, Madame Vignolas.
Merci. Bonjour, Monsieur Hussein.
Thank you. And hello, Mr. Hussein. As you know, we've been asking for Service Canada counters to open again. I've gotten a few answers, but I'd like to know why Service Canada counters are not open, knowing that all the riding offices have received kits for reopening. Many businesses are reopening, restaurants, hairdressers. Everybody takes the measures they can. But there has to be a way to protect both clients and people who work there. What are the fundamental reasons for not reopening the counters?
Merci pour ça.
Thank you for this question.
And is very much committed to ensuring that Canadians continue to have access to the benefits provided by Service Canada. We're currently working with our public health experts and officials on how best to reopen the Service Canada network for the public. But make no mistake about it. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, we have worked very hard to ensure that Canadians have kept the access that they're used to quick and reliable Service Canada services. And I can go into detail on how we've done that.
Merci.
Thank you. That would be good to get a written response quickly and have a reopening date. This happened in my riding, but I know it's happened elsewhere. Some people have wanted to provide documents in the outside boxes for Service Canada counters. The boxes were locked. They didn't know where to turn, so they turned to us. That is the right thing to do, but it has raised questions with me. How did you ensure that the general population receive the information regarding what they should do in various circumstances, because people don't usually look very far?
Merci pour.
Thank you for this question.
I want to assure the honourable member that we have not stopped providing Canadians with access to Service Canada. We have redeployed almost 3,000 additional staff from other less critical activities in Service Canada to support the delivery of employment insurance and the new CERB to Canadians. We've established a 1,500 agent call center dedicated to supporting clients calling about the CERB. We have also deployed over outreach and liaison officers to contact over 4,000 trusted intermediaries across the country. We are doing whatever we can to make sure that we're there for Canadians who need services that Service Canada offers.
Okay.
So, well, regarding CMHC, it was also possible for landlords of multi-use buildings to defer payments or the collection of rent. Do we have any data regarding the, in this case, landlords of multi-use buildings who have made use of this possibility?
Thank you for the question. I will turn to the CEO of CMHC to provide you with an answer.
We'll provide an answer in writing. I don't have that information at my fingertips for this moment.
Okay.
In terms of exact numbers.
En complément.
A complementary question or follow-up question. This pushing back of the payments was to make sure that the landlords could give the tenants a break on their rent. And I wanted to know whether they had really given their tenants a rent break. And I was wondering if it's possible to get data on that.
A brief 30-second answer, if possible.
We have ensured that that we are there for Canadian families to be able to pay the rent by providing them with the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, the wage subsidy, the extra payments for the Canada Child Benefit, the GST tax credit. We will be there for Canadians to support them throughout this difficult period.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to Mr. Green for 5 minutes, please.
Mr. Chair, my questions may be limited in scope, and I just wanted to put on the record that if Ms. May, given that it's her birthday, if she wanted to take a little bit of my surplus time, I would allow that to happen. A happy birthday to you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the Honourable Minister. Honourable Minister, you'll recall that when the first iteration of support for Canadians rolled out, it was a form of EI that came in 3 different variations, kind of confusing, very not well defined, and of course was quickly scrapped in favor of the proposal that we put forward, which was getting money directly to Canadians at around $2,000 a month. We know that it changed from people who couldn't earn any income to some income to a little bit of income. Would you acknowledge that this program has evolved and has been, evolving over the course of the COVID crisis?
I think that the pandemic and our response to the pandemic has certainly tested our ability to respond quickly and to respond effectively to Canadians. It has tested our traditional programming to make sure that we moved faster than we're normally used to. And I'm proud of the work that our civil servants, our world-class public officials have been able to put together. I mean,
so it's complicated.
But let me give you an example. I mean, the employment insurance payments would take more than 3 weeks to get out, and now through the CERB, we're getting payments out in a matter of 2 to 3 days. So
I'll
that
accept
is a
that
huge
quick turnaround, Mr. Minister, and through you,
Mr. Green. I'm sorry to interrupt. I wonder if I could get you to speak a little closer to the microphone. Our interpreters are having a bit of a problem. That's
Happy
better.
to. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that because there's certainly some complexity. I know that most of the casework we did was trying to explain to people just how CERB would roll out. And we actually had, in some instances, senior members, parliamentary secretaries, giving people counsel online to apply to go ahead and do that. We have noted labor lawyer Joshua Mandrake from Goldblatt talking about having his law firm actually had to do 19 or so posts just on COVID alone. So how do you square the fact that this program has evolved so much and your government has said that they commit to helping Canadians and now have pivoted and have framed this that some people are in fact fraudsters? And
I completely disagree with the assertion in the question. I will submit to you that I am proud of the fact that we have delivered CERB payments to millions of Canadians, and we've moved very quickly to do that. And it is because of our public officials. Our world-class civil servants came together and they put together a mechanism to do that. I'm so proud of the fact that they were able to do that. And we have been informed by a compassionate lens to make sure that we move fast to get real money into the hands of Canadians. Yes, there is elements of fraud, but the vast majority of Canadians are of good faith.
I don't want to run the clock out, Mr. Minister. I want to get right to the thrust of it. Are you going to throw people in jail? Are you going to throw, while simultaneously putting $750 billion out to big banks in quantitative easing and into liquidity supports without any real restrictions or requirements? Are you really going to frame the most vulnerable people in this country as fraudsters and throw them in jail?
I appreciate the question, sir, but I reject the premise of pitting Canadians against businesses. I'm proud that we have been able to be there for both Canada's businesses and families.
How many tax dodgers have you put in jail?
The CERB has been there to help Canadians quickly and effectively. People are paying their rent, they're buying food. I am proud of that record, and I will put that record against any other government any day.
How many people do you anticipate will be pursued and prosecuted and thrown into jail for trying to survive through a global pandemic?
We have been informed by a compassionate lens, a reasonable lens to get money out the door to Canadians. We don't view Canadians as inherently fraudsters. We view Canadians as people of good faith who just want to get by as a result of either losing their job or whose jobs have simply disappeared. And that was the thinking that informed the CERB.
Will your government take responsibility for some, perhaps, of the misleading directions that members of your caucus have provided to Canadians online?
I can speak.
Brief response, please, Minister.
And I'll give Ms. May my next round.
I'm proud of our response. We've been there for Canadians and will continue to be there.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to our second round of questions, which will be 4 minutes in length, starting with Mrs. Block. 4 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I do thank the Minister as well as his departmental officials for joining us. Minister, Canadian families who don't normally qualify for the Canada Child Benefit have received a payment of approximately $300 per child as part of the COVID-19 CCB top-up. When they have called Service Canada to report the error and return the benefit, they have been told to donate it to a children's charity if they don't need it. The scenario that I've just described to you happened to our colleague, Rosemary Falk, Member of Parliament for Battleford's Lloydminster. Can you confirm whether or not Canadians who receive the CCB top-up in error will be asked to repay it come tax time?
So let me speak about the Canada Child Benefit. We introduced it because we wanted to.
Listen.
Well,
listen.
I mean, if I'm allowed to respond,
excuse me, Mr. Chair.
you don't get to determine my answer, Ms. Block.
But I didn't ask you to speak about the CCB.
I didn't interrupt your answer. I am speaking about the CCB.
One at a time, please. If I had a gavel, I'd be gaveling it right now. Now, we had a specific question, I believe, from Mrs. Block.
I'm trying to answer, Mr. Chair.
If you could get to it quickly then, sir.
I am. And I didn't interrupt her, so she shouldn't interrupt me. The Canada Child Benefit is there to help families. It has provided more money to 9 out of 10 families. It has lifted hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty. It has ended the practice of sending checks to millionaire families. I am proud of what we've been able to accomplish with the Canada Child Benefit.
Do you have a point of order, Mrs. Block?
I do. I asked a specific question about the CCB top-up. I do understand why the CCB exists. I understand what it is meant to do, but I would like to know.
Yes, I have to rule that's more of a point of debate than a point of order, but certainly you're more than able and willing to pose the question again, if you wish.
Thank you. Minister, I understand what the CCB is intended to do, who it's for, the benefit of it, but I'm asking you a specific question. Will Canadians who receive the CCB top-up in error be asked to repay it at tax time?
With the Canada Child Benefit top-up, we are providing $300 additional one-time support for each child per family who are already receiving the Canada Child Benefit to help families through the COVID-19 pandemic. If there are certain issues that have come up as a result of providing that additional payment, we will deal with those issues. But I am proud of our government's effort to support families with an extra CCB payment at this difficult time.
We understand how proud you are, Minister. I guess what I'm asking is that you had questions by my colleague, Mr. Green, around how you're going to deal with fraudsters. We recognize that in these unprecedented times, there are errors made. And so what I guess I'm wanting to hear from you is, how are you going to determine what's an error and what may be a fraudulent claim? Are you going to ask families who have received this benefit in error to repay it at tax time? And how are you going to determine what is a fraudulent claim, or who has received something fraudulently and who has received something in error?
I believe I've answered the question. I believe what I said earlier is that we will deal with any issues that have come up, any minor issues that have come up as a result of the additional payment. But the essence of the additional payment is something that I am proud of, yes, and I will continue to say that because it is lifting families out of poverty. It is helping families at this difficult time. And it is doing something that you guys did not do, which is
Thank you very much, Minister.
Send checks to millionaires.
Thank you very much, Minister. We'll now go to Mr. Kazmierczak for 4 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am replacing Mr. Kazmierczak for now. Minister Hussein, thank you for appearing before a committee. I know on Friday you took part in the march in support of Black Lives Matter, and I know the Prime Minister announced that Canada will be supporting the UN Decade for People of African Descent. Through you, Mr. Chair, and Minister Hussein, I know you've had a lot of conversations with the Black community in Canada, especially I know throughout your whole mandate. And I'm asking you, what have you heard which relates to COVID-19 and the impacts that it had on our Black community in Canada? But also, what have we done to support the Black community in Canada?
Thank you so much for that really important question. Anti-Black racism is real. It impacts the lives of millions of our fellow citizens. We have done a lot, but more work needs to be done. We have supported Black Canadians through a $25 million investment in building capacity and infrastructure in Black Canadian community organizations so that they can better serve Black Canadians. We are the first government to sign on to the UN Decade for People of African Descent, which has a number of commitments under it. We are committed to making sure that we address the aspirations of Black Canadians to live a life free of anti-Black racism. And we will continue that work together with members of the Black Canadian community who, as a result of the marches and the calls to action, are asking us to listen more carefully to their lived reality and to address their aspirations in a way that is inclusive and pays particular attention to the reality of anti-Black racism in Canada.
Thank you, Minister, for that question. I want to move on to the CERB, and I am interested in how the thought process and how obviously you are responsible for Service Canada. So, overnight, many people lost their jobs, and you guys had to find a way to deliver the CERB. So, can you talk to me about how? With Service Canada, how you were able to deliver CERB to millions of Canadians across Canada?
I believe that when the story will be written about how our government was able to move quickly to help Canadian workers and families who had lost their jobs and whose jobs simply disappeared because of COVID-19 pandemic, there'll be a very major section on the CERB, the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. And I believe that the government moved very quickly and effectively to deliver real and tangible support to Canadians. I now turn over to the rest of the answer to my officials to provide a little bit more granular detail on how Service Canada was able to collaborate with Canada Revenue Agency to put the mechanism of delivery together.
And they will have about 40 seconds to respond.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. I'd just like to share first and foremost that our teams have been working collectively together with CRA and ourselves here at Service Canada, both on the policy and on the operational side, to ensure that we're able to develop a plan and a mechanism to actually deliver this program to Canadians. We actually had staff here working 24 hours a day, at some points actually sleeping here overnight to make sure that our systems were working correctly, that in fact that we were finding the right mechanisms, the policy simplifications, and the appropriate IT technology to actually deliver this service to Canadians. At the same time, we redeployed 3,000 staff to do processing. We
McDonald, and I hate doing this. I honestly mean that, but we are limited in time, and I would ask that the fullness of your response be provided in writing as soon as possible and directed to our clerk. We will now go to our next 4-minute round, and that goes to Mr. McCauley.
Great. I'd like to start actually, Tom. I'm going to introduce my motion that I had submitted a few days ago regarding the PBO report, please.
Please go ahead.
Wow.
You can introduce it, Mr. McCauley. I don't know if you want to read it into. I don't know if you want to read it into the record.
I don't wish to take up time reading into record. I'll wait for Mr. Clerk to say it's in order, and
it is in order.
Go right. Perfect.
It is in order.
I suggest perhaps for the sake of time we can move right to a vote.
We will have a speakers list for those of you who want to make comment on Mr. McCauley's motion, which all of you as committee members will have received. It is admissible, it is amendable, and I'm looking now for anyone who wishes to speak to it. I'd ask you if you could please put up your virtual hand, and we'll try and collect names. And Paul, if you can assist me in that, I would appreciate that as well. I'm not seeing any hands up to speak to the motion. Seeing none, then I would ask Paul if you can conduct a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And the question will be on the motion in the name of Mr. McCauley, for which he gave notice of on June the 4th regarding a request by the committee to have costing analysis done by the Office of the Parliamentary Budget Officer. I will call the roll now. Mr. Drouin.
En faveur.
Mr. Joe Howry.
In support.
Mr. Kuzmierczak.
Support.
Mr. McKinnon. I'm sorry, Mr. McKinnon, I didn't hear you. I believe your microphone is still muted.
Oui, j'appuie.
Thank you.
Yes, I support the motion.
Mr. Abultieff.
Support.
Ms. Block.
Yes.
Mr. McCauley. Yes, thank you. Madame Vignola.
Oui.
Mr. Green.
I support.
Mr. Chair, that is 10 in favor and none against.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The motion carries. Now, Mr. McCauley, you only took a few moments of your time before introducing the motion, so you have about 3.5 minutes left.
Great. Mr. Siddell, if I could ask of you, the first-time home buyers incentive, which of course the government is putting money toward, it's kind of in direct conflict with your new rules on mortgage eligibility. One of them fuels the housing fire, the other one's kind of stamps it out. I just wonder if you could give your thoughts on that. Like, why do we have money, taxpayers' money, going toward inflaming the market at the same time you've introduced new rules to dampen it down?
Thank you for the question, an important question, Mr. Chair. So, of course, even mortgage insurance itself is supportive of demand. And the first-time home buyers program was meant to be a replacement for mortgage insurance debt with a form of equity, so that prospective homeowners, first-time home buyers, would not be burdened with debt itself. This program may, in fact, be increasingly attractive to people as they concern themselves with falling house prices.
So you don't see any irony at one side? You're trying to flatten the demand for housing. People not getting over their head. At the same time, government's providing money for people to get in over their head on mortgages.
Mr. Chair, the difference, of course, is the form of debt support versus equity support. And the changes that we put in place were to avoid excess borrowing in support of house prices, which, of course, the first-time home buyer plan is not. So I don't see the conflict, no, sir.
Okay. Is there a worry that we're dampening, like we're changing the rules, obviously, we don't want people taking on too much mortgage, but at the same time, we're looking at housing prices dropping, demand for housing dropping. Is now the time to bring in more rules, make it more difficult to take on a mortgage?
Yeah, that too is an important question, Mr. Chair. And we've been accused of making a pro-cyclical decision like many other lenders.
Well, you guys get accused of everything, so that's not
we do indeed, sir. We do, and we're accountable to Canadians, and so those accusations are welcome. I say it with my tongue planted in my cheek sometimes. Nevertheless,
it just seems counterintuitive.
Well, it is, you know, it is pro-cyclical, as economists would say, but the net benefit is positive. The alternative is to put people into houses with effectively 1% equity after mortgage premiums, with house prices falling, we estimate something in the neighborhood of 9% or more, and that feels irresponsible.
Do you think this is a temporary measure to be reversed in 3 months, 6 months? Things improve?
We'll monitor the market as we always do. We think this is responsible risk management, and so we've put it in place now, and we make changes from time to time. We'll continue to monitor how markets develop.
Mr. Chair, do I have any more time?
Got about 30 seconds.
Great. Minister Hassan, a quick question to you. We saw Mr. Duclos today saying that the expected fraud on CERB will be extremely rare. Why would you put in legislation to jail someone over CERB fraud if it's supposed to be so rare?
If
Mr.
possible,
Chair,
Minister, a brief answer.
Mr. Chair, I want to respect the honourable member's question, but I cannot speak about legislation that has not been presented in the House yet.
But you leaked it to the media.
That would be a violation of parliamentary privilege.
But you leaked it to the
And the
media.
honourable member knows that, so I don't know why.
Well, the honourable minister knows you leaked it to the media, so you can
Thank you
talk
very
about
much,
it.
colleagues. Again, if
Painful
I had a gavel, I'd be gaveling it. We'll now go. I have Mr. Drouin on my list, but Francis, you gave the last intervention. I'm not sure if you or
Yes,
Mr. Kazmierczak is going to do this one.
Mr. Chair, I'll take Mr. Drouin's spot in this
Please
round.
go ahead, then, Eric. You've got 4 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. Minister, it's wonderful to see you here, and thank you again for your excellent testimony and your wonderful answers as well to the questions. I wanted to speak to you a little bit about the emergency community support benefit. We know charities and not-for-profits are playing an incredibly important role in Canada's response to COVID-19 and really supporting the role that the government is playing as well too. We know more than ever Canadians are relying on local community organizations, and I can tell you in our riding of Windsor-Tecumseh, we have excellent organizations, whether it's the Unemployed Help Center, whether it's United Way, or whether it's the Windsor-Essex Community Foundation, are doing tremendous work supporting our community and supporting vulnerable members in our community. So we've seen this government take some really important steps. For example, making charities and not-profits eligible for the wage subsidy program. But I wanted to know if you can talk a little bit about the development of the Emergency Community Support Program and detail a little bit how this fund is going to support community organizations across Canada and in ridings like Windsor-Tecumseh.
Thank you so much for that question. You point to a really important need during COVID-19 to support organizations, nonprofits and charitable organizations that are providing much needed services to the most vulnerable populations in our community. The Emergency Community Support Fund comes from feedback that we received and discussions that we had with the charitable and nonprofit sector. So the fund, the $350 million fund, was essentially put together to help the helpers, to help them continue the work that they're doing, but also hopefully expand their capacity to deliver even more support and more services to the most vulnerable populations in Canada. And we are doing everything that we can through that fund to make sure that they cover every vulnerable community across our great country from coast to coast to coast. We have a rural lens. We have an urban lens on it. We have demanded disaggregated data upfront with respect to that fund. We will continue to monitor any gaps that emerge in the implementation of that fund. And I'm very proud of the fact that we moved very quickly to establish it, and we are getting money out the door. Many organizations that already provide important services to our most vulnerable are themselves facing financial pressures, and the $350 million Emergency Community Support Fund is meant to support them.
Well, thank you very much, Minister. And I've heard from a number of constituents that really parents with children have been hit particularly hard during this COVID-19 crisis. And many parents, for example, have lost their jobs. They've had to leave their jobs. They've had reduced hours, for example, and they have to stay home to be with their children. I just wanted to ask, what has our government done to support parents and families during COVID-19?
Thank you so much for your question. The Canada Emergency Response Benefit, as well as the wage subsidy, is ensuring that Canadian workers are supported through this difficult process and indirectly supporting their families. The one-time top-up to the Canada Child Benefit is also a recognition of the financial pressures that families are facing at this difficult time. We're moving ahead on July 20th with an additional increase to the Canada Child Benefit. The GST tax credit is also delivering more money to the pockets of Canadian individuals and couples. We are doing everything that we can to continue to support Canadian families.
Thank you, Minister. We'll now go to our final interventions, 2 minutes each. Monsieur Basselou-Deval, 2 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
2 minutes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is for Minister Hussen because I heard him earlier say that his government was working very hard to help those who are having a hard time in society. But in Quebec, we've been actually we have a lack of housing, and there are a lot of people waiting to have access to this housing. For 3 years now, we've been waiting for the agreement to be signed, the assistance for housing, assisted housing. And I was wondering whether the minister will ensure that this agreement can be signed so that people can get the assistance they need.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Chair,
sure that that we work diligently and continuously to make sure that we reach a housing agreement, a bilateral housing agreement with Quebec, an agreement that is signed in the spirit of collaboration and true partnership. We are very keen to ensure that this is an agreement that works for Quebec and Quebecers.
Monsieur le Ministre, pendant qu'au
Minister, in Quebec, we are still waiting, but across the rest of the country, there actually are lots of ribbons being cut thanks to this new money. I'm asking, when are we going to get this money? We've been waiting for 3 years this time.
Monsieur le Président, nous avons...
Mr. Chair, we have made the commitment to conclude with the province of Quebec a bilateral agreement based on partnership, cooperation, and consensus principles, as well as responsibilities. We are not going to impose an agreement on anyone, but to work with the government of Quebec to make a real difference for Quebecers who want access to affordable housing. Just a date, please.
Our final intervention, I believe, now is a birthday present for Mr. Green to Ms. May. Ms. May, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, it's very nice. Thank you, Matthew, very much. Look, my question, I think, first of all, thank you, Mr. Minister, for being here with us. I know you won't discuss legislation that hasn't been tabled yet, but I just want to put on the record that I think that the structure of the not yet tabled legislation is a poor one. The much easier ways to create an incentive for people to go back to work without creating, I think, what amount to fake threats that will be unpleasant and cause trouble down the road. So I hope before we see this bill tabled, it can be improved. But I think my questions are really to your officials because I know CMHC is the agency to house the Canadian Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance for small business. So I turn to Mr. Siddell. I'm wondering, it's one of those programs that seems not to have been easy to access, having the property owners and landlords have to make the application. I hear from lots of small businesses that it's not working, and I wonder if there are plans to improve it.
Mr. Chair, if I may wish Ms. May happy birthday, I'll do that too.
Thank you very much.
In response to your question, we've actually staged the rollout of this program deliberately, and we've held back large landlords with their understanding, and we're working with them proactively so that those can funnel through. This program was actually established in record time with no infrastructure in place. I'm actually quite proud of that. And we are working day to day to improve it. We've doubled our call volumes. We've prepared our partner for an increased volume in the future, and we are in active consultations with landlords and tenants on how to do so.
Well, if there's more time to pursue this, Mr. Chair,
10 seconds, Ms. May.
Okay, in 10 seconds. Comment on the deferral cliff, if you will, Mr. Siddell.
We are concerned about the volume of mortgages. I was trying to get the number, but we don't have much time. We'll get you some numbers, but we're concerned about that. Now, deferred mortgages doesn't necessarily mean that they will go into arrears or result in claims, but there can be a correlation, and we're looking forward to an economy being restarted so that this won't happen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Colleagues, that brings to an end our questioning of Mr. Hussen. Minister, I want to thank you and your officials for being here with us today. I wish that you and all of your officials remain safe and healthy, as I do wish that to all of our committee members. You, sir, are now excused, but colleagues, I'd like to keep the rest of you on the screen for just a few moments. I've got a couple of quick things to go over with you prior to this Friday's meeting. So, Minister, you and your officials are excused. Thank you. Now, colleagues, we are in public, and as all of you are aware, we have now received authorization from the House that the committees have fully restored, or have been fully restored in terms of their powers, so that we are not restricted only to ask questions of witnesses about COVID-19. We have also been informed by the party whips, all four of them, that committees are authorized, if they so wish, to continue to meet over the course of the summer until Parliament is resumed sometime this fall. My understanding is that there are at least one, perhaps more committees that are planning to meet over the summer. I'm not suggesting that by any stretch of the imagination, but I am asking all committee members to think about what your plans might be for this committee. We've got 3 meetings left, one this Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Then next week, that's June the 12th, by the way, the next Tuesday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern, and finally on Friday, June 19th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Sometime within the next 3 meetings, I will be scheduling a brief period of time, committee business, if you will, for us to discuss future plans for this committee. So in the interim, I would just like all of you to consider whether or not you feel we have exhausted all of the questions and all of the witnesses that we have called or wish to call for this study, and what do you think our plans could be or should be throughout the summer months. Just to let all of you know, from a personal standpoint, I will definitely be taking some time off this summer. I've also talked to many of my colleagues who inform me that they find the Zoom meetings, and Elizabeth and I have been talking about this earlier before I convened the meeting, that the Zoom meetings are far more trying in many respects and far more exhausting than meeting in public. So I would like all of you to consider that. I want everyone, frankly, this summer to be able to take some time off, to spend it with friends and family, to recuperate, to recharge your batteries. But I also don't want to direct this committee into any meetings that they feel might be necessary over the summer months. So I just raise all of that for your consideration. And Ms. May, I see you've got your hand raised, so I'll go to you.
I'm not a member of the committee, but I wanted to propose that we all go to your place. Saskatchewan in the summer is lovely, and I think we have a bonding time at 6 foot distance.
Well, I'll tell you, you might not be able to get 6 foot distance on my deck, but I'd accommodate as many of you as I possibly could. Anyway, colleagues, that's all the only comments that I have. I'm not looking
Chair,
for. Yes, please go ahead.
Chair, I believe Mr. McCauley had a comment. The estimates. Go ahead. The estimates.
Yes, they are scheduled for Tuesday, June 16th.
Oh, thank you.
And colleagues, with that, I would ask you to, again, consider my comments and think about what we may want to do as a committee for futures after June 19th, which is the scheduled end of this suspended Parliament. So seeing no more questions or hands raised, colleagues, once again, I will thank you all for participating. We will all see you this Friday at 11 a.m.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to. I'm not sure if Mr. Abultiev may have had a comment. I thought oh no, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. My apologies, Mr. Chair.
In that case, before we see any other hands raised, I will adjourn this meeting and see you all this Friday. This meeting is adjourned.
À vendredi.